All right, my lovely planeswalkers and fine folk from all around the world, welcome back for the final time this evening to the coverage of the Gaming Stadium Standard 2022 tournament. My name is Hayu and I'm here with Mani Devudi, and we are about to go into the grand finals. It is DANINJA Tomasz Pokorny with mono green aggro going up against the Scrubbly on Jeskai mid-range. We've been looking forward to this matchup all evening, so let's not waste any time and head down into the action as soon as we can. Mani, quick prediction as we go down? All right, looks like it's going to be DANINJA on the bottom half of your screen, not with mono black control, but with mono green.
Yeah, and notably, DANINJA was the lower seed, so I believe the Scrubbly will be the player on the play here in our grand finals, which is a matchup between Jeskai Dragons and mono green aggro.
Yeah, we are going to get that overlay fixed for you very shortly. But Mani, as we look at the opening hands here, quick prediction for the outcome of this finals?
I love this Jeskai Dragons deck. I hope it's able to pull this off, as this is the big test for determining whether there is viability for this deck in the metagame, and I'm sure they came ready with mono green in mind.
So opening hand looking a little bit awkward here for the Scrubbly on the Dragon Ball deck. Dragon's Fire and Orb of Dragonkind in hand, but not really a lot else to work with. DANINJA's hand, however, looking pretty sweet with
already
a couple of
mulligan
1-drops. Yeah, gonna have to hold on to that one, unfortunately. It looks like for the Scrubbly. So we'll see whether they manage to draw out of that. They're looking at double Swarm Shambler Ranger class Old Growth Troll. I'm a little bit worried for our Jeskai player here in the opening turns.
Yeah, and now with that Kazandu Mammoth, DANINJA can ensure that by turn 3 he is able to play Old Growth Troll, which is why we see him hesitate a bit. The curve of Swarm Shambler into Ranger class into Old Growth Troll is definitely tempting, so I can understand the bit of pause here. This is for DANINJA to determine, do I need this Kazandu Mammoth as a source of pressure in this game? If they don't, they would rather play it here and ensure that Old Growth Troll. However, by doing so, they will be giving up their turn 1 Swarm Shambler. That is part of the calculation here.
Besides, just to go for that Swarm Shambler, we're going to see Orb of Dragonkind. Unfortunately, the Scrubbly just found Henchgate Pathway for the turn, so still looking for action.
Yeah, nothing quite happening on that side. Would love to find something like a Prismari command, but it's really going to be not 8-mana Magma Opus.
Oh my goodness.
It's going to be cards like Draconic Intervention that can stabilize the board state and push Scrubbly ahead to a victory in this matchup. There's only 2 copies in the main deck, but they do have access to, I believe, a third in the sideboard, so that is going to be one of the big changes that happens post board. The question is, can they get there up 1-0? And this hand is not getting the job done in that regard.
Meanwhile, we have DANINJA getting in and
Found the forest, so that is Old Growth Troll if they want it.
could be Old Growth Troll, could also be Swarm Shambler and the second Ranger class. Just maybe some consideration for going wide.
It is tempting, as with the 4-mana next turn, you are representing double Rangers class level 2 activation. That would then allow you to put a counter on each of the wolves when you're attacking, and with the double Swarm Shambler in play, you are suddenly asking a lot of your opponent if they're going to be using spot removal on your creatures.
Right, and even if you think about something like a Draconic Intervention, there's nothing in the graveyard right now for the Scrubbly to exile to pay that extra cost. You're insulated from that at least for a couple of turns.
Yeah, I genuinely would not be surprised to see Scrubbly just use either this Dragon's Fire or even just discard Magma Opus to make a treasure, just to give themselves the out of drawing that Draconic Intervention and being able to use it. The recognition that if I draw Draconic Intervention and can't wipe this board, I'm going to be too far behind, would go a long way to putting them on the path to victory.
So Swarm Shambler on the stack. It's probably really having a good think about it.
Yeah, not an easy position for them. This is the finals. They are playing for the grand prize, and every decision does matter here, especially when you're working with such few resources. You can't afford to make a misstep.
Just the 2 copies of Intervention in the main deck here for the Scrubbly. Does not go for the Dragon's Fire and doesn't go for the Magma Opus. Into Auron's Epiphany, that one is going into the Foretell Zone.
And now with the Magma Opus, Scrubbly does have the option available to them to discard, make a treasure, untap, and cast Auron's Epiphany. So that is at least a sort of multi-turn plan that we can see from them. That would still put the Magma Opus in the graveyard in case the end of that multi-turn plan does happen to be a Draconic Intervention. But without it, they're still being asked some very heavy questions from this mono green board, and I don't know if they're coming up with any answers.
And meanwhile, that's a lot of damage to be taking as well if you're not going to use the Dragon's Fire this turn and just use the 2 mana to discard that Magma Opus.
Yeah, the dream for Scrubbly is that Tomasz decides to put both counters from these Rangers class triggers on the same wolf. That's not going to happen, mind you. I think Tomasz is an experienced player who's going to recognize that just is begging to get blown out by spot removal. But if that had happened, this Dragon's Fire would have just provided so much value. As is, Scrubbly still feels forced to use it, but 5 damage coming through means this Faceless Haven next turn is a lethal attack.
Oh my goodness. Prismari Command is a card. It does have text.
Prismari Command has text.
It has text.
Yep.
For the Scrubbly.
Yep.
It can take out a Swarm Shambler.
Yep. It can replace a 1/1 Swarm Shambler with up to 3 1/1s. Notably, there's nothing that says Tomasz will go for the lethal attack here. He's facing a hand of 2 cards, and there's no reason to expose this Faceless Haven. One of his primary ways to get around something like a Draconic Intervention to a direct removal spell like another Dragon's Fire. So it does make sense for Tomasz to want to play it safe and continue developing here.
This time, both of the counters are going on that 1/1 Swarm Shambler. Prismari Command is going to stop this Swarm Shambler from getting the counters, but at a very steep cost indeed of making a couple of replacements.
It's costly, and unfortunately, there's no good news waiting on the other side for Scrubbly. Tomasz has more development. He has the ability to put a counter on a Swarm Shambler, play the other Swarm Shambler, and we're in intervention or bust territory. We have been for quite a while, and if he finds it now, the Scrubbly would still need more to deal with that Faceless Haven waiting on the other side of the battlefield.
It's not going to be discard Magma Opus. It's going to be untap. It's going to be sack the orb, untap, make an Auron's Epiphany, take an extra turn.
One draw.
One draw. That is not a Draconic Intervention, and that is not enough mana to cast the Magma Opus. The Scrubbly at 8 life with 3 blockers.
Not
if the Scrubbly untaps, There is a world.
I don't think there's a world.
I guess.
It's close to a world. The big problem is, right now, the Scrubbly is going to have to block 3 creatures, let's say the 3 large ones, and they're still going to take 7 damage, assuming Tomash puts all the counters on 1/1 creatures. 7 down to 1. Even if the Scrubbly untaps and has a Magma Opus, the damage is so done at this point. There's so many creatures on the battlefield that I just don't see it.
So here come the attacks. We'll see where these counters go. There's got to be some temptation to put them on the Trampler as well.
There is and there isn't. Diversifying your resources here by putting them on 1/1s does make more creatures that have relevant attack and toughness. We know that Galzeth Prismari has to go in from the Old Growth Troll. The math to get the Scrubbly down to 1 means they can't take any trample damage. So Galzeth, regardless, is going there.
Okay. So here we go.
This is still 7.
This is still 7.
Scrubbly's still going down to 1. So step 1.
Okay.
Done. Step 2 is a lot of question marks.
No way. Even if this is Draconic Intervention, there's still that Faceless Haven on the battlefield. That's a land. You can untap, you can Magma Opus. Right? Tap 2 things, kill 2 things, make a 4/4. That's not going to be enough.
Yeah, you can kill 2 1/1s and a 2/2. You can tap the Trampler and the 3/3. You can block the Faceless Haven, and you are still dying to the other Swarm Shambler.
Yeah, and this is the best you can do.
This is the best you can do.
But it's just not going to be good enough. That's still 2 creatures attacking in, 1 blocker made by the Magma Opus. And that's going to be it for game number 1 here. DANINJA, Tomasz Prokoni coming out ahead in the grand finals here of the TGS Open Series.
Yeah, 1 game up, but that is not the match. Players still get to go to their sideboards here, and there is still a lot of Magic to be played here for the Scrubbly. They still have access to all of these removal spells in their sideboard that we're going to see in just a moment. Unfortunately, game 1 just was not going their way thanks to that mulligan and the lack of draws.
The adult gold dragon on top as well, just slightly mocking the second card down after everything. So we're gonna go to the sideboards here, and what do you like here out of this Jeskai deck?
Starting off with Cinderclasm as a potential makes some amount of sense. Unfortunately, a lot of the creatures in this deck are bigger than that 2 health mark, so it can be a bit questionable if you don't get the exact right timing on it. One of the big ones is those copies of Burning Hands and Rip Apart. Not only Rip Apart serving as an answer to Ranger class, but also just giving the deck access to a lot more targeted removal to keep the early game a bit in check. We did see the amount of damage those 2 Rangers classes were able to incur in that game, and it felt almost impossible for the Scrubbly to come back into a game when every turn the attacks were just incurring so much value from those Rangers classes.
A couple of copies of Burning Hands as well in the sideboard for the Scrubbly.
Yeah,
one of my favorite
nice
cards coming out of Adventures of Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, and obviously the biggest addition from that sideboard is the 3rd copy of Draconic Intervention. Would have loved to have the full 4 in this specific matchup, but you just don't have the luxury to focus all of your sideboard slots on one matchup. So unfortunately, only 3 Draconic Interventions. It is definitely the best card in this matchup. I believe I also saw a Cleansing Wildfire coming in
Ooh.
from the Scrubbly. So we'll see if that comes into play. There are a decent amount of creature lands in this deck from DANINJA. There are the full 4 copies of Faceless Haven and Lair of the Hydra. So plenty of creature lands for that Wildfire to target. And fortunately, starting off with another mulligan for the Scrubbly.
Yeah, but this hand is looking a lot nicer than the previous one. Prismari Command can deal with a smaller threat and maybe shuffle away some of these extra lands. Goldspan Dragon, a nice one in the air to follow up as well on the play. Adult Gold Dragon, also what the Scrubbly is looking for against this kind of aggro deck. Meanwhile, though, there's Ranger Class down on turn number 2 again for DANINJA.
Yeah, and this is going to be the big test. If the Scrubbly passes and oh my goodness. Okay, if the Scrubbly passes and DANINJA just goes for Ranger's class level, this is how this backfires. That inscription draw is going to heavily punish the Scrubbly if DANINJA goes for it.
I mean, there's some argument to not go for it, right? There's some argument to saying, you know, it's fine. We'll let this one go. Just get the 4/4 down.
There's definitely some argument to it.
But the feeling of blowing out the Prismari Command.
It may even be the responsible choice to let this happen.
Yeah, there we go.
Tomash is a responsible player.
Well, you know, that is why we have seen him put up so many results in the past couple of seasons, culminating in that performance in Challenger Gauntlet. And great to see him in the finals here again today, up 1 game already, but Goldspan Dragon coming in at his face from the Scrubbly.
Definitely expect to be seeing more of Tomash in the future, and just been a very impressive player over this past year, putting up results and showing that really just even from challengers, you can see these names rise up and make a name for themselves and show continued tournament result after tournament result.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of great Magic players out there right now. Really, one of the best times in recent years for just a huge crop of new talent coming up through the online tournaments, through Magic Online, through the gauntlets, etc. And can't wait to see what the landscape of Magic looks like in the coming years. Here comes Old Growth Troll in for 5.
5 is a very scary number.
Yeah, that is scary. Thinking about maybe doing something about this Goldspan Dragon.
Yeah, it is a little risky. You don't want to be giving your opponent 4 mana to work with, but at the same time, you really don't want to give them all of their mana to work with. So perhaps it's just time to get rid of it now while you can, and hopefully there won't be anything waiting with the 4 mana they have available to them.
Also, a very respectable choice to use that inscription this turn instead of something like the Blizzard Rule. Here comes Adult Gold Dragon, though. That is going to be an 8-point life swing straight away, and although there is that Blizzard Rule to get rid of it, that is a pretty big play there out of the Scrubbly's deck.
Yeah, it was looking good, but this Asika's Chariot is just going to do so much to further snowball this game out of control, as now Tomash has this very good turn where, thanks to the choice to use the inscription rather than the Blizzard Brawl last turn, now he's able to resolve Chariot, Blizzard Brawl down this Adult Gold Dragon if he so chooses. Yes, Scrubbly will still gain the 4 life from this fight, but there's nothing left on the board. 7 mana is not doing so much if you only have 2 cards in hand, and yeah, this I don't think is looking great for the Scrubbly.
That expressive iteration is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting for the Scrubbly.
all of the heavy lifting, and this is why this mono green deck has proven to be so terrifying, and why a lot of people have their eyes on it when going into the next standard format, because when you've got 8 creature lands and a Seeker's Chariot, your creature deck suddenly becomes so much more resilient to board wipes.
How about a second adult gold dragon straight off the top of the deck? Coming in, taking DANINJA down to 8. Scrubbly back up to 21.
8 is a really interesting number, because now, with that extra life gain, Scrubbly is not dead on board. And DANINJA doesn't have the 6th land to cast this Environmental Sciences. So this is going to be a lot of damage coming through, don't get me wrong. But Scrubbly has a draw and then 3 more looks. A Goldspan Dragon does it. A 3rd adult Gold Dragon does it. An Auron's Epiphany does it. Galz's Prismari does not do it.
That's not it. That doesn't do it.
Are they going to a 3rd game?
Okay, well, let's find out.
Can he find a dragon fast enough?
It's Draconic Intervention. Does that do it?
Draconic Intervention. What is in the graveyard?
So there's Expressive Iteration that we definitely know about. Is that it, though? Oh my goodness. DANINJA's ready. Ready for the GG.
Waiting for
the
it.
GG is appropriate either way.
I think that's a Prismari command, so I don't think...
That is a Prismari command.
That does it in terms of clearing the board. So this is going to be...
Can the Scrubbly attack? Scrubbly cannot attack here with that adult Gold Dragon. We play on, but both of these threats on this side of the battlefield have trample. The 6/6 and the 5/4 Professor both have trample.
So Tomash can play the Old Growth Troll, animate the Seeker's Chariot, make a 1/1 Lair of the Hydra, and even if the Gold Dragon blocks the Chariot and goes up to 10, they are still facing down 11 damage plus the Ranger's class, 12 damage, and I think this is it. I believe
that's too much.
Through all of it, it is mono green that is going to prove the big bad of this standard 2022 format and come out on top in the hands of Tomasz Bukharny.
There it is, -3 life. That is not enough. And that's gonna do it. The Ninja taking that one down 2-0 pretty decisively in the end in that final match there, up against the innovative Jeskai Dragons list that we saw out of the Scrubbly. And, you know, Marnie, we had to give it up to both of these players. Both of them played incredibly well all day through a very long day. 8 rounds of Swiss, plus the top 8. And both players really showing us what the landscape of Standard is going to look like.
Yeah, it definitely was not an easy road, but it was one of those things where we saw that throughout all of the Magic that was played today, it was a lot of the known factors that we're used to rising to the top. Blue, red based Dragons decks and mono green aggro, that was what we saw at the end of the day. Yes, mono black control tried to make a run for it, but I would have been really curious to see how it does against mono green, for example. Unfortunately, the matchup proved to be pretty difficult against that Jeskai Dragons deck, as that was their 2 losses on the day. And instead, what we see is a lot of what we're used to. They prove why they are the good decks.
Well, you know, Mani, we often talk about Standard formats as a sort of triangle, right? And we're starting to maybe see the edges of how that triangle might look like as we go into the next couple of months, right?
If mono black control has any part of a triangle in the next 6 months of Standard, even the next, I'm not even greedy, in the next 3 months of Standard.
2 weeks. Okay.
I will be absolutely ecstatic for the future. And of course, none of this is final because we have a whole nother expansion. We have Innistrad coming out in September, which could just change everything, as it usually does when expansions coincide with releases and rotations.
All right, well, as we're looking forward to Innistrad, Mani, vampires or werewolves?
I'm gonna go with vampires.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with vampires as well. But only because my favorite creature in all of Magic is a vampire. So that is gonna do it. Congratulations to Tomasz McCorney, DANINJA, for taking that one down. Mono Green Snow Aggro still has it. Still looking super strong going into the next standard format. And Mani, all that's left to say is to round it out. We're going to say thank you to everybody behind the scenes here at the Gaming Stadium. Thank you to the producers. Thank you to everybody who helped run the tournament today. Thank you to everybody who played in the tournament today, obviously. The stars of the show, as it were. Thank you to Return It Express, Monster Cat Kanto, and LaSalle College Vancouver for their partnerships with us. And Mani, before we sign off, if people want to get in touch with you, find you on the internet, where can they search for you?
They can find me at Zapgaze on Twitter. They can catch me on Wizards of the Coast broadcasts. I will be on stream for the MPL and Rivals Gauntlets in 2 weeks. Really excited for those. And right here on the Gaming Stadium for the next Magic tournament we did. All
right. Well, if you are not sick of my shenanigans, come find me on Twitter and on Twitch at Nifette, Niphtette. I have a fun little Magic stream where I basically mess around and do crazy things every Monday and Friday. And yeah, do get in touch. Let us know what you thought about the tournament today and enter more TGS tournaments. TGS.GG, the best online esports tournaments and events in Canada. So check out the action. Sign up for events. Keep playing Magic. Keep playing Standard. And we will see you next time here at the Gaming Stadium. Have a great evening.